Hey, what's up, guys? So here we are, day 20. So what we're talking about is mechanical engineering theory, just for algorithms studied in research for predicting the amount of minutes it would take for a zone to heat up or cool down. Optimal start algorithms, they're called, and we should finish up this one today. So we spent a week on this one, a week on Model 1, and then a week on Model 2. So yeah, that's where we're at in this coursework created by AI. It's been good. So if you haven't already, make sure you read the paper here. It's a good paper. You can even read it right in the browser. So that's basically what all this content is created off of, is research by PNNL. So let's dive into it. Day 20. Okay, so we're still in Model 2. Explore how changes in outside air temperature impact ratio. The weather ratio magnifies or reduces the predicted time depending on how much colder or warmer today is relative to yesterday. A sensitivity check evaluates how big the effect is. For example, a 10-degree colder day might lengthen the runtime by 20%, while a 10-degree warmer day might shorten it. Understanding the sensitivity helps set realistic limits to the model's output. Okay, so let's plop this into our code base here. Do some Python math lesson script. Okay, so this is our ratios here, degrees Fahrenheit, and we did talk about formally like how the ratio blows up as the outside air temperature reaches the T-ref point. So if you remember in the paper, they described T-ref, a high and a low. So a high was 100 degrees Fahrenheit, and T-ref for heating was 32. There's also metric equivalents to that. So basically, we would have to be pretending that the building hasn't started yet from the building automation system, and our zone temperature has drifted from occupied set point because the equipment is off. So we'd be in a heating application. Basically, our zone temperatures would be cold, and we'd be needing to warm the building up before people arrive in an optimized fashion. So this is basically that high, or the T reference value for in a heating mode. This is our outside air temperature yesterday. So this would be currently the outside air temperature is 15 degrees or 20 or 25, and we need to warm up basically that zone. So it's asking us how does it affect the ratio, which will ultimately affect the amount of minutes that the model will calculate. So yeah, so basically as the outside air temperature gets colder, our ratio gets smaller, and that would have an impact on creating more minutes for our model, I think. I'm kind of curious as to, it would be kind of interesting just to copy this code base into here. Maybe we could just play with more of like the completed equation. I'm just thinking about this, so we have the same parameters defined. Not that this would matter at all, but it doesn't even compute minutes Actually, I think we could if we put this under here. I think we could do this then. Time optimize is the t base times a ratio. I think this should work. Might be doing something wrong here. We could ask AI to help us out a little bit here. So, a minus 49 in minutes calculation. That would not be good to have a negative runtime. Okay, so I kind of like these more realistic examples. So let's guess AI to help us out here. Assuming that ChatGPT isn't going too slow. It's going to go over to our lessons. Let's see, so we can probably just give it the whole week. Maybe even give AI just more context. Be like, so this was, we were on day 20. For day 20, why? Let's see, can you help me with a more realistic example? I combined 19 and 20 together. But the minutes calculation is negative. Please help me out. Okay, so keep in mind too that we're just kind of playing around in Python for learning courses, but in a real building automation system, this could be, it would just be whatever the manufacturer provides. So you wouldn't even be coding any of this. This would be like in some widget or a block defined by the manufacturer. Whatever they do, they're embedded programming in. So yeah, just keep that in mind too. Okay, great question. Nothing's wrong with your math and numbers you fed into it. Made physics impossible. Okay, so maybe this should just be like a little bit of better example because all of our data is made up. So let's see what this is here. Okay, so this is our base time here, t base, which was degrees per minute. Yeah, so this is our delta temperature today. So basically we're 6 degrees under the occupied zone set point, which would be like, let's say the zone temp drifted down to 66 degrees overnight and we need to heat it back up to 72 degrees Fahrenheit. This is our degrees. No, wait, I'm sorry. Yeah, today's, so basically T alpha 2a parameter. This is degrees per minute here. So this was the inverse of that, like we talked about on the last couple tutorials. So our base minute calculation is that off of our ordinary degree per minute, and then we're doing this factoring in some weather data, because the outside air weather can have drastic effects on the building getting warm or cool in the middle of the night when the HVAC is off. I'm just looking at these. So it really blows up our ratio and really makes our minutes go up But when the outside air temperature gets colder, our minutes go down. Ratio outside air is getting colder, we would typically need more minutes, not less. So it doesn't make sense to me. Why would minutes increase as outside air temp increases? Typically, as outside air temp falls, we would need more runtime of the HVAC before occupancy. Let's see what we got here. 100% correct. So what gives? The behavior you're seeing is not you screwing up, or thank you. It's the side effect of the specific ratio we're using. When day moves closer to T-ref, warmer, the denominator shrinks, it gets bigger. So is the lesson wrong? The lesson faithfully follows the PNNL 2 as published. It is extremely sensitive, blows up, yes. Even the day 20 sensitivity warrants you the model exposes the practical BAS. If you ever implemented Model 2 in the field, you would certainly flip the numerator and denominator and clamp the ratio. Okay. Make my code do that then. Make pi code mimic that, then, please. Or just skip the Model 2 entirely and go to Model 3. But the problem that we have is that the Model 3, the paper defines that as the kind of the award-winning model. It does slightly better performance than the other models, except it requires some matrix algebra libraries for doing multiple linear regression, and that might not be available. At least the building automation system I'm working on, like I can only do these simple calculations like this, and I don't have any linear algebra libraries available, so weather ratio slipped. Well, nice to know that the weather ratio has to get flipped. So it deviates from the paper. Confusing. But that does look better, so that's what I would expect to see. Like as outside air temperature gets colder, our runtime would need to be increased. So that flipping the ratio is not mentioned in the paper. Here. Okay, so let's just read. So plot the ratio as a function to outside air temperature per fixed T-ref. What temperature difference I don't think I'm going to bother doing that because we modified this. How could you modify to, okay, so we did this already. Cap the ratio when so I think our AI generated code here, we delta T, let's just see if there's a cap of the ratio. Whether ratio is flipped, guard against division by 0. Just for now we'll fall back to 1. Ratio clamped, so their max, what's our max ratio? Or 2. So that's how you would cap the ratio instead of having it blow up like it does here. We would just cap our ratio. Code gets a little more fancier, but it's basically the same thing. So I'm going to skip to day 21. Okay, so the paper does not mention flipping. Discuss, so that's just something we found during testing this. So interesting. If you want, next, summarize how DOE labs later moved away from Model 2. Interesting. Anyways, I think we're just gonna skip on to day 21. So week 3 review, perimeter versus core. So Model 1 assumes indoor conditions dominate and is best for interior or high mass zones. Model 2 adds weather correction and is better for perimeter zones that are exposed to outdoor air fluctuations. Please review your building so each model works well considering the insulation. Yeah, so we talked about Model 1 just does not factor in zone outside air temperature, but uses the quadratic regression for its model, and then Model 2 were what we talked about this week. So it almost makes me think of, I might actually see if I can find a picture file. I could kind of define this. So this is actually a large high school in the winter in Wisconsin. So kind of like what you're seeing is like the section A of the school. These are all interior zones of the building, and then this is actually the exterior wall over here. Then over here, and like what you're seeing is on this wall, who knows, maybe it's a north wall or something, but all these zones are drastically affected when the HVAC is off overnight, that it drifts down a good 7 degrees, like kind of those ranges that we've been talking about. And then some of these interior zones are not affected. A couple of these interior zones even warm up, where it could be like computer equipment or something, even when the HVAC is off. But this is kind of like what we're talking about, how the wall, exterior walls, they will definitely affect losses for heating and cooling, and not so much for interior zones. But that's where Model 1 assumes that the outside air temperature assumes outside air conditions dominate and is best for interior. So basically Model 1 is like those interior zones, and then Model 2 adds weather correction is best suited for perimeter zones, which is what I just showed you that were red. So they could have 2 different models running, one for interior and one for exterior zones. So let's just see if this this is kind of cool. So this I might actually put this one here. Maybe we can comment this out. Whoops. A comment inside of a comment. Okay, so if I rerun our script, so this is just like kind of like in review of what we've been talking about. So model, if we were doing this, here's Model 1. So this was using the basically quadratic regression. If we were given these numbers, This is basically what we would output in minutes, and then if we were could it, factor in outside air temperature, model 2, this is what we would factor. We would, so there could be very different, the point being, I think there could be, very different calculations in minutes that the models calculate, which ultimately results in, this is like electrical power would be consumed for half an hour longer on this Model 1. It's hypothetically speaking, who knows, it's just which one would work the best, but what we're trying to avoid is the image of the VRF system. There's a lot of electrical input to heat and cool a building, and then if we can optimize that and minimize it, that's where that's electrical energy savings right there. So yeah, it's kind of cool. For an interior zone, which model would you like to use? Model 1. How does the presence of windows influence if you're trying? That would be an exterior wall, so we would use Model 2 with the outside air temperature input. Suggest additional data. Solar gain might improve model predictions. That's kind of interesting. Maybe some future model that you can do more complex regression or machine learning. Maybe you could do something fancier, but keep in mind the building automation systems are very crude PLCs. They're maybe the building automation systems of the future or some concept ideas now are not advanced enough to run Python code. They're just they're usually some manufacturer provided scripting language or ladder logic where you can't do any of this stuff inside of a building automation system. It's very rare. If you can do a higher level language coding inside of a building automation system, maybe some scripting if you're lucky with the basic math libraries to do this kind of stuff, but if you do Python and machine learning and any of the fancier stuff, that's where IoT, smart building IoT handles that. So I think that's all we got for today, folks. So the next round of lessons, we'll be getting into the PNNL Model 3. So this is even fancier. This is, I think, the most advanced model. So I'm hoping to, see what this, see how hard it is. And it's not that advanced. It's just a little bit more linear algebra, multiple regression, not even machine learning or anything like that. So let's see you guys. Let's end this one, and I hope to see you guys there on the next video. Have a good one.